magic money trick. Right, gentlemen, lights off, please. Those pretty pictures cost a lot of money. They can see my face, trust me. You take the lights off so everybody in the back can see the pictures. Good morning, everyone. Remember 2019? The good old days? We've been through Ramaphobia. We've been through Ramabiality. And we went into Ramaphobia. And we've been stuck in that space ever since, in terms of deep uncertainty. I hate to tell you this, but this year was better than last year, just. Last year, the year before that was tough, the year before that was tougher. As we go into 2023, it's likely to be even harder than what we've become used to in the last couple of years. Because we're going from a period of relative abundance into a time of scarcity. Money has been sucked out of the economy through higher interest rates and an effort to try and combat inflation. I know you guys like a little bit of inflation. It helps you in terms of pricing and margins. That's a useful tool. But it's getting to a point where it's fairly destructive in terms of its impact on your customers, and that is the great South African public. So things are getting really difficult. They're making you feel like the world is coming apart at the seams. Certainly economies in the Northern Hemisphere are seeing inflation in double digits. It's not something they're used to. I was speaking to somebody in Holland the other day who was more pale than Dutch people are at this time of the year normally, because they're sitting with inflation at 14%. Germans, who can engineer almost anything, are sitting with inflation in double digits. The UK has got double digits inflation. The Americans think their inflation has peaked. Yesterday, Christine Lagarde, the European Central Bank, says it's too early to call an end of inflation. They're likely to go into a recession in Europe. And even as they go into a recession, they're going to keep raising interest rates. Because the biggest problem in the world right now is inflation. Inflation destroys the long-term value of money, and people are really scared about it. So this is the long tail of COVID. This is the disease, which is by and large hopefully done. Many of you have suffered from COVID. Some of you came close to the edge during COVID. Some of you are overachievers and have had it more than once in this time. And so you've been through the agony of the disease, but the agony from an economic perspective is going to persist even longer. The thing of deglobalization, suddenly we realize that we've got this just-in-time global economy where companies like Toyota and others wouldn't order an extra oil filter until it was absolutely necessary. And as the machine was about to put the oil filter into the car, you could tell that the technical specialist on this, and the oil filter would arrive and popped into the vehicle. But suddenly the global economy came apart at the seams. And I was chatting to the chief executive of Intel in Davos earlier this year. By the way, it may sound like a bit of a name drop, and please forgive me if I do sound like a bit of a name dropper. In 25 years, I've had a huge amount of access to incredibly influential people, and I'm very, very privileged to have had that access. To go to places like the World Economic Forum, going to see Warren Buffett at Omaha in Nebraska for his annual shindig, and go to all of those sorts of places. So I don't feel like I'm dropping names. I'm not doing it. I'm just sharing experiences. It's like that time I was chatting to Richard Branson. And he said to me, I introduced Nelson Mandela to the Dalai Lama. No, Richard, don't do that. So forgive me. I was telling you to Pat Nelson, the CEO of Intel in Davos earlier this year. And I was saying to him, what is your biggest concern? He says, well, look, we use 61 elements of the periodic table to make microchips, to make tiny little microprocessors. And we couldn't get the minerals from the mines, so we had to do new contracts. And we also then we couldn't get our minerals to the factories. And even if we could get those minerals to the factories, we couldn't get the factories working because in places like China with the zero COVID policy, it's been really difficult to get manufacturing going. So we have to deglobalize, we have to de-risk, we have to go from just in time to just in case. And we saw this happen around the world with so many industries. Of course, the medicines industry was held up by India guys will know this better than anybody else. The ability to get stock onto shelves from your traditional sources has been incredibly difficult. The stagflation, this worry that economies will stagnate and inflation will take hold, is beginning to abate a little bit as central banks have finally begun to act through raising interest rates everywhere except places like Turkey, which keeps cutting interest rates despite the fact that they've got inflation running at over 80% in that particular country. Cost of living crisis, your customers are feeling this really, really hard. I mean, they've got food inflation running at 12% a year. That's an average as well. The basic cost of living in South Africa for the poorest of the poor is rising at an exponential rate, at a rate we haven't seen in decades, and that's got to be a deep concern. And then, of course, further issues which affect the economy in terms of inequality, and you guys are the front and cold face of the inequality crisis in South Africa, but inequality rising all over the world, and leads to rising anger and disconnectedness and a noise in social media platforms. And people start getting angry and they start saying, you know what, this democracy thing is not working for me. You know what we need? We need a situation, we need a nice dictator to come in and tell us what to do. It didn't work out particularly well for Weimar Germany. It doesn't work out in history anywhere, and we've got to be very careful of the nonsense that is spread on social media in terms of people who are disaffected or simply taking a chance in terms of politics, and that noise leads to a severe case of despondency. People, we're tired at the best of times at this time of the year, but I think around the world, and particularly here in South Africa, as we face what we face in the next month with the ANC elective conference and the uncertainty, what that will bring in Nasdaq just over the hill over here, is also leading to quite a lot of hard feeling in South Africa. This is Mariana Mazzucato. She's a top global economist, and she's talking about global labour's share of global income at its lowest levels ever. That really pisses people off. And people across, we're seeing it happening all over the world. Sri Lanka, a tiny little island state just off India, used to be called Ceylon, the source of most of the world's tea for most of the 20th, 19th and 20th centuries. People invaded the presidential palace because they were swimming in the pool. A corrupt family that ran the country, of course, absconded and disappeared with half the nation's wealth. But people getting ready across them, we go to see governments fall all over the world. So it's really hard to tell people that you need to be optimistic about the future. And one thing I've learned in 25 years of financial journalism, of interviewing people over 25 years of studying their businesses, looking at business models, and trying to understand what makes some people tick and others fail, is that in 25 years, as the hustlers become millionaires, I've seen many millionaires become billionaires. One or two will return my calls that I make, but that sense of optimism that is so crucial in getting up in the morning and getting started and getting done each and every single day. It's something that every single person who's made a large fortune in South Africa over the last quarter of a century to half a century has been, at their very core, an optimist. Even the grumpiest of South Africa's billionaires has been an optimist. Somebody who believes that they can make a difference in the future. Not somebody who, remember the 1970s? Bright place like these, sunny skies and Chevrolet nonsense. It's not that kind of optimism garbage. It's a real optimism that says, this idea can change the future in this sector. This idea can make a fortune for myself and my family. This idea can employ 10,000 people. If you look at some of the startups of the last 30 years, some of them employ tens of thousands of people. Unfortunately, we haven't had enough of them because we don't have enough people with the ability to navigate the enormous obstacles that exist in South Africa. But those that do navigate the obstacles tend to be considerably more successful than those that simply allow those obstacles to become a long jab in their everyday lives. And I want to tell you some of those stories today. It's okay, we've got cameras. The hardest thing we have is electricity. My goodness gracious. Thabo Mbeki's government knew that we were going to run out of electricity in about 2008. Oh, in 2008, it was 2007, into 2008, lovely January, we came back from our holidays to almost dead silence. We didn't even have generators in those days. Nowadays, the sound of Hardy passing Joburg has been replaced by the diesel thud of engines, the smell of the beautiful And that's because in the early 2000s, there were many, many banks, of course, but some clever guys from Stellenbosch got together and decided that they were going to make a new bank. And then we had the big four banks, there was Investec, and then there were a whole bunch of little banks. And then there was a bank's crisis in the early 2000s, of course, but Capitec at 76 cents at the lowest point. If you bought 1,000 rands worth of Capitec shares at 76 cents, you wouldn't be sitting here today. You would already be in your private island in the Seychelles, but you didn't because you weren't optimistic about the future. That'll be a lesson to you. But they saw an opportunity that nobody else saw. This ability to see opportunities where nobody else sees them is the one thing, another thing that distinguishes those that succeed from those that simply sit on their hands and go, oh my goodness, it's too terrifying to act. So let's find out about some of those people. There's a golden thread, by the way, that connects the slides I'm about to show you. Now, other than a great opportunity for steel and glass and cement sales, what is the golden thread that connects these properties? There's a yacht club in China, there's a mixed-use development in Senegal, a beautiful 360-degree view in Cape Town, an office tower in Lagos. I don't know what that is, but it's a building in Sweden. It looks like Denmark had too much Lego and gave Lego to the kids in Sweden and said, build something. But there's a golden thread that connects those buildings. One thing. And that same thing comes through in these guys, in these things. By now you should be recognizing some iconic ideas. It connects these people. I'm always willing to bet Chris Gilmore will recognize him. Maybe you will recognize him. You recognize him? Do you know who that is? No, Chris Gilmore will recognize him. Excellent. Okay. You sure you recognize him? And him? What about him? Absolutely. And the person with whom I spent my 20th for many years, I did. And my wife was in the next room and she was delighted. She got my off. Okay, so she was in California and I was in my lounge and we were connecting on my video. But still, it's my 25th wedding anniversary. We spent it together. There's a golden thread that connects all of these ideas together. There's the global economy. It's about $100 trillion, of which a tiny little percentage, tiny little bit is South Africa, $426 billion, 0.426% of global GDP, but a tiny little bit in the global economy. All of those have a connection to South Africa and the South African economy. And it's kind of hard to believe, because, as Desmond Tutu said about 20 years ago, we're a scintillating success, just waiting to happen. We're still waiting. There's a quote, and it's attributed to Jan Smuts, but it's not Jan Smuts. It's somebody in the 1940s. Jan Smuts, the biographer, tells me it wasn't Smuts, but it was somebody of that era and of that ilk who said South Africa is that perverse kind of place where things are never as good as they should be, but never as bad as they could be. That's 80 years ago. We've made no progress, essentially there. We've always been the scintillating success, just waiting to happen. Of course, one of the biggest threats we face as a global community is climate change. And I was surprised because the founder of Patagonia gave away his company the other day to a trust. And he said he avoided a whole bunch of tax, which is one aspect of it, but also he said he was embarrassed to discover he was a billionaire. That wasn't his goal. So he gave away the company to a trust and said all profits from this trust will go to fighting climate change. This is a poster that I found online, the Patagonia advert. We're all screwed. So don't tell us we can imagine a healthy planet, because at the end of the day, it's too late to fix the climate crisis. And we refuse to believe we need to demand a more future because we don't have a choice. Hey, that's hardly optimistic. But like South Africa, sometimes you have to turn things upside down to fully understand that. So what Patagonia really meant was, please read from the bottom left. Because we don't have a choice, not to take the obvious, not to take the warning signs at face value. So hold on a second, there can reverse aspects of climate change. I would urge you today to look at what you can change in your own sphere of influence in terms of economic outcomes, in terms of job security, in terms of hiring people, and perhaps we need to look at South Africa slightly differently. The world's second biggest exporter, despite the very best efforts in transport, the world's second biggest exporter of citrus fruit after Spain is South Africa. Sunday's River Valley outside Durban. Citrus Dal, that's what they called it. The Orange River. Large portions of South Africa are increasingly seeing lots of citrus fruit production. The world's biggest distributor of avocados comes from Limpopo. The laboratory where the rootstock is created, where the hard shells are created, so you can't tell whether or not it's ripe. I was in another place the other day talking to avocado farmers. I said, please can you put some lights on an avocado? Green is wait, because it's green. Orange is take a chance. Red is it's too late. That way we've got a fair chance, and I think they've just decided they can't do that because they sell fewer avocados. So they all buy twice as many avocados as we need, because we can never tell them the bad things are right. But Westphalia comes from Limpopo. It comes out of the Hans-Marinsky Trust. Hans-Marinsky was a very clever geologist in the 1920s and 30s. They discovered a massive platinum reef which still carries his name in Limpopo and Mpumalanga, the Hans-Marinsky Reef. Hans-Marinsky Trust owns huge forest land and also owns this agricultural business called Whitfield. They produce avocados for the world, 365 days a year, to 35 different markets, to thousands of clients within those markets. How do they do it? Well, they don't just grow avocados in Limpopo, that can make life very, very difficult. They grow avocados in about 15 different countries. There's Vietnam, there's Israel, they grow avocados in California, in Colombia, in Venezuela. They've got massive orchards of these things all over the place, with massive logistics operations. They get their avocados all over the world in an nanosecond. All of that might be run by a guy called Grant, who bases himself in the UK to be more of the centre of global trade, but certainly South African ingenuity once again. This is a fabulous business called Yoko. Many of you will use it. Many of you, of course, will know Yoko as a means of digital transactions. The founders of Yoko were trying to disrupt the banking system and saying to the banks, hold on a second, but I don't want to give my favourite child's left arm to you as a deposit, because then the other children will know that it's my favourite child. But it will take a month to get one of these payment devices to get attached to the national payment system. It was really, really difficult to do. If you're a big corporate, it's fine. If you're a little guy, it was really undemocratic. And so what the Yoko guys did, Mr. Mapai as the chief executive, is create an alternative which connected a payment device to the cell phone network. You could buy a device in the morning and be trading in the afternoon. And what did they see? Out of the cash economy into the digital economy, immediately the revenues of their clients went up 35-40% within the first month, simply because it's easier to spend on card, believe it or not, than with your funny money. It's entirely possible. What about Sweep South? Aisha Pandor's business. Aisha Pandor started Sweep South after taking a Lyft cab in the United States and realizing that this cell phone miracle, the app miracle that allowed you to call a cab that would arrive when you wanted it, where you wanted it, and huge applications for a place like South Africa. And she said, what is the money industry? To her husband, who's from Sweden, he's the technical guy within the family. What is the money industry we can disrupt? We can democratize. Germiston, and then it goes to the northern suburbs of Joburg, where they have their third outlet. And by then, Fernando Duarte and Ronnie Bros have run out of money. They've got big ideas. They want to take this chicken to the world. So one day, Ronnie Bros is in his meat packaging plant, which is now the head office for the India region of Nando's, and that is sort of in Berea. You go in with a hard hat and a stiff constitution into the office on a daily basis and you work at Nando's. It's in a rough part of town, it really is. But he goes into the meat packaging plant and he meets a guy called Bruce McAvoy. Bruce McAvoy says to him, "You guys want to expand? Well, my family is friends with some people in the UK and they're always looking for new ideas. They want some money. Why don't you go see them?" And Robbie Rosen isn't your average CEO. He actually listens to anybody who wants to talk to him. Not only did he listen to Bruce McAvoy, but he also acted on what Bruce McAvoy said to him. He took a number, made a phone call, and a couple of weeks later, where the Hollard family, the Enthovens, were in town, he met Dick Enthoven at the Savoy branch of Nando's. They sat down together, and I've got this wonderful audio of Dick Enthoven saying, "The moment I tasted this chicken, I knew it was something special." And they sat at the table and they negotiated the future of Nando's. There's Fernando Duarte and Robbie Bros, two hooligans operating on the stiff of an oil brand. They don't really know what they're doing. They've got a big idea. Neither, I think, Fernando could cook, but Robbie certainly couldn't cook, and he wasn't a great accountant either. He had a brilliant marketing brain. He had a big idea. There and then, they shook on a deal that to this day remains in place. Now, if you were going to invest in two under 30-year-old smart asses from the south of Joburg, and you were going to say, "We'll fund you to grow all over the world," what percentage of that business would you want as an investor? Now, I asked this to the South African Venture Capital Association a couple of weeks ago. They went, "Oh, we want 70%. And they said 80%. No, too much risk. No, we wouldn't do this." I said, "That's why venture capital is broken." I was in London last week and this venture capitalist was on the panel with me, and I turned to her and I said, "What would you demand?" And she was much smarter than the South African venture capitalist. She went, "But I want to leave enough on the table for them to feel like they were being shut up. What's the number?" And she would also want 70%. And Dick Enthoven says to Robbie Bros, "Well, money is a commodity to us. It's not to you. Right now you need money. We like your idea, but you need money. We want to make a huge amount of money out of this Nando's idea of yours. But we will only make lots of money if you make even more money. So we'll take 30, but you and Fernando keep 70. Unusual in any business transaction, but Nando's is unusual in every aspect of its business and the way in which it operates. So these guys start working, and today there are 1,500 Nando's around the world, give or take about 35 different countries, and they're on an expansion drive. They continue to grow this little idea from the south of Joburg, funded by a nutty investor who to this day does not have a written agreement. The Brosen family and the Enthoven family don't have a written agreement between them. The business is got legal contracts and all that sort of stuff, but there's an understanding, there's a shared sense of values. When they're shook on the deal, they said, "Well, we should not talk to our lawyers, shouldn't we?" They said, "No, we shouldn't." So they swapped the lawyers' numbers, they took a look at the number, they each got back to their offices, they phoned their lawyer, and they discovered that their lawyer was the same person. And their lawyer said to them, "You guys are all great. You have the same bank assets, you understand that you will do fine." And the Enthovens have had to cash in a couple of times over the last 35 years, but they continue to do it, they continue to fund it. And that sense of shared values is what has really made Nando's incredibly powerful in the world, because Nando's is remarkable in that when COVID happened, and the lockdowns happened, and I wonder how many of you can say this for yourselves, when businesses shut down, and Robbie did that wonderful Because see, we don't add value to our quantities nearly enough. We dig iron ore out the ground, we put it onto trains, and if the train makes it all the way to Saldana, we then put it onto ships and export it to China. The Chinese then make things and then sell it back to us at 10, 20, 50 times, 100 times the price. We don't add value, we don't beneficiate nearly enough. But we see more and more smaller enterprises beginning to beneficiate raw materials, if you like. I mean, rooibos is a weed, let's be honest about it. It grows wild in the sea. It's being cultivated better now. They're very strict farming practices, but there is that. Oryx doesn't salt. It doesn't have to be a high-tech solution. You don't have to be a catapult pie or a Aisha candle to come up with the right idea. Oryx desert salt is the product of a woman who was desperate. Her name is Sam Skyway. She was out of money. She was out of hope. She was a single mother. And she had this little boy and a father who had run off to Denmark. And she said to the father, it's time for you to step up to the plate. I've got an idea for a business. You need to take over parenting for a bit. And thank goodness the father didn't do that. And she went back home and conceptualized Oryx desert salt. She met an old man in the Kalahari on a trip 5 years before who was pumping brine out in the desert and drying it in the hot desert sun. And coming up with these beautiful crystals of sodium. And she worked out that there was no way that this brine resource could be contaminated by any pollutants based on where it was. She did her research and discovered that most table salt in the world has got microplastics. We've all heard of the microplastics crisis, the big missing garbage dump, all of this sort of stuff. These microplastics are absolutely everywhere, and lots of researchers all over the world, particularly in Asia, are finding very high concentrations of microplastics in table salt. Now, the sodium is going to kill you long before the microplastics give you cancer if you eat that much salt. But the point is, it gave her a sales pitch, a unique sales pitch. She designed the henceforth or the Oryx logo herself. She got the original napkin on which she sketched it, and she stuck it on the bottle. It didn't look very good, so she got an ad agency to make it look professional. She started producing this stuff and bringing it into beauty restaurants and beauty shops. And last year, Whole Foods in the United States said, we have 10 tons of raw salt. She didn't have that in stock. So she starts trying salt and water very fast, stinking in the bottles, and now she's got a regular export channel into the United States, into the Whole Foods market. One woman with one idea changed the destiny, not only of herself, but her son who's back with her now, permanently, but for 15, 20 employees that she was creating. No high-tech, nothing fancy, simply a bright idea and a unique proposition. And it's those sorts of people that we need to be supporting more of in South Africa. So the golden thread, other than a great opportunity to sell lots of cement and glass and steel. Anybody? Hope? Anybody? Graham, did you say architect? Or maybe I just read your mind.
Read my mind.
Because you read my book. Graham is the CEO of Exclusive Books. Will you please ask him to take my book from the back of his store and put it in the front? Look at this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think that's a joke. These buildings are all designed by the same architectural firm. That architectural firm is based in Cape Town. That architectural firm employs 400 people. 400 professionals at a round cost. They work from either the office in Cape Town or from home, using this marvelous new thing called EST, and I guess it'll be pretty big one day. But they were doing it before COVID. Why? Because in 2008, when building work in South Africa stopped, and although the infrastructure story in South Africa, it also happened with high-end developments in South Africa, they needed new customers. Those new customers have been coming in dribs and drabs because they're coming to Cape Town and they stood on Camps Bay Beach, and they looked up at the 12 Apostles Mountain Range, and they looked at all of the Winter housing and they looked on the ridge, and they gone, I want one of those houses. And then commissioned Stefan Anthony, Sayota is his architectural firm. They commissioned Stefan Anthony to build their houses. Now the problem with that was, Stefan Anthony would pack his bags and go off for 6 months and sit on the side and get all dusty and work on a project with somebody and be paid nicely for it. $10 to $15 million, it was fine. But it was a horrible life because his family was back in Cape Town, his business partners were back in Cape Town, they were easily taken to China, they were being taken to Lagos and everywhere else. And they really couldn't cope with the demands of their work, so they changed their business model. And they decided to do everything never allowed themselves to become lazy. They've certainly boxed above their weight with the EST, which for 10 years in the 1980s anticipated a might have defined the end, that South Africa would lose its pariah status, that at some point the Berlin Wall would come down, at some point Eastern European breweries, which had lost out, which had become complacent, which had become negated to their customers, would be available for purchase. And that's precisely what they did. So that lack of complacency, that real sense of focus, that ability to deliver superior products worldwide out of South Africa, and around cost base with a dollar revenue, thank you very much, is the one thing that makes FMX stand out. What about these guys? I went and stood outside their shop in New Bond Street this week and went to all of the smart units on the inside. And I went, you clever bastards. Up until World War II, about 10% of women in America wore any kind of jewel as a symbol of engagement in a ring. Rubies, sapphires, emeralds, those kinds of things. I was really effective. The beers had a problem. There were too many diamonds in the world. So what it was doing was it was limiting supply. So limited supply to global markets, but it didn't have demand. So they thought to themselves, let's get an advertising agency involved. They hired an advertising agency called NWIA. The NWIA in New York started seizing Hollywood diamonds. They started writing songs for movies. And diamonds are a girl's best friend. That didn't happen by accident. That wasn't created with advertising. A diamond is forever. It comes from the pen of a young copywriter late one night, bereft of sleep, scribbled it on a piece of paper and said, I'm tired of going to bed, I'll fall out in the morning. She took it to the office and they said, that's not very good. But hey, they've got nothing else, let's take it to the client. They took it to the client, a diamond is forever. And it becomes the longest running advertising slogan in history. It's been going on for 80 years. The beers have been using a diamond is forever. And by creating demand out of Hollywood and Elizabeth Taylor dripping in diamonds going to the Oscars, they created demand. Being some sort of lifestyle things themselves, I need diamonds. Women would go to men in their lives and say, Mary down the street is given a diamond ring by her fiancé. They're now engaged to be married. And you know what? It's been 3 months salary on it. Why 3 months salary? Why? Because the NWIA said, if he truly loves you, he will spend 3 months salary. So they're wearing, what is the first thing that many women who wear diamond rings as a sign of engagement do when they go to their friends say, should be. Are they their face? And they go, oh, and everybody, ooh. Sometimes they go, oh. They're already 3 months so we go. And suddenly demand goes up. 90% of women in America now were betrothed to be engaged in outline. The same has happened in Japan, the same has happened in many parts of the world where there is a Western influence. The diamond is the sought-after stone that goes into engagements. Because women were told it was due to them, and men were told it was the right thing to do. If you love her, you will show her by the size doesn't matter, of the stone in the ring. But then, when the wall comes down, Russian diamonds come to the market, Sierra Leone diamonds come to the market, suddenly the world is awash with diamonds again. De Beers had a problem of oversupply, created scarcity by limiting the supply, they created demand, and now they're too people with diamonds again. Blood diamonds, bad diamonds. Those are bad diamonds, our diamonds are good diamonds. And you know, ours is a good diamond, De Beers, because we're good honorable people. And just so that you know that it's a De Beers diamond, we will put the forever mark inside it. I went into the De Beers store, I said, can I see the forever mark, please? And they showed me these stones and said, it's in there. I said, where? They said, it's in there. I said, where? It's flipping invisible. But it's in there. You need one of those hoodies that jewelers use to see them forever. Oh, by the way, the diamond has to be at least 2 carats in weight for it to have a forever mark. So not only do you have to love her and show her that you love her at least 3 months, and at least 2 carats, and that's more than 3 months what they need to work hard. But all of that is dreamt up in Main Street in Germany by the Oppenheimers and the Beers. Global leaders in diamonds. Astonishing concept. Lots of examples going into a new market, decides to use lunch in the bush as its symbol. Investment goes into London, they're boxing above their weight, they're doing deals, they're standing out, they're being different, they're making waves in the city of London, which is all locks and keys and padlocks and lions, and they don't stand out. So they're going to very passive aggressive. They choose the zebra as their symbol because it will stand out. But then they're taking a step further. They start sponsoring sports events, particularly things like horse racing, because their clients like to go to horse racing. They don't lose money on horses, they own them, well, they don't lose a lot of money, but they can afford to lose money. But they want to reach those people. And they discover that the Queen always carries the race day card in one particular way. Under her arm, just like this. So what looks like a kid's failed design project is actually very deliberate, because they designed the whole thing to go around her hand, so that the zebra would stand out, so that the writing would stand out, because she always carried it in the same way. Smart boxing above your weight for absolutely no additional cost. The Queen endorses you. Thank you very much. These guys, you know all of them. There's rural courts in the bottom of Savoy Capital. There is Rodney Sachs on the top left corner. Rodney Sachs, I'll tell you just one story about him. He's delivered the best investment return to investors of the last 30 years, better than Elon Musk, better than Jeff Bezos, better than Mark Zuckerberg. How? He's a German lawyer. Teamed up with another German lawyer, and they bought a healthy drinks company. That healthy drinks company wasn't making too much money, so they looked around the world and said, what can we do better? Boom. 216,000% return over 30 years. $1, $216,000 today. Thank you very much for playing. But we export some of our best IP and some of our best people, which is why it feels like this. Remember the President's first State of the Nation address? He told us we'd have smart cities and bullet trains. Well, this is a smart train. It was too tall for the double, so jumped off the tracks. So that's what it feels like, despite all of the huge success that is built into us and that we've created and that we show time and time again that we can deliver and develop, it feels like this. Part of it's a media problem. Journalism needs to focus on silent revolution, says a Dutch journalist, who says, you know what, media nowadays is focusing too much on the if it leads phenomenon, and we need to look broader. This is what I try to do, what I do every single day. We're getting moodless and despondent, but some bright spot comes up with a new idea. You've got to celebrate the success. We're going to the EST elective conference now. We just had a policy conference. This is the group of infinite policy disasters, where you develop a policy. This happened at the last EST elective conference, at the last policy conference. You mess it up. You then lie about it and you add more radicals in front of it, but you don't actually do anything more. You then end up fighting with each other. You end up having to try and reform yourself from the inside, but you can't do it because people have taken money off the table through the back door, sometimes through the front door. You get to a point around 6 where you wake up to the real possibility that you could lose the election, and that day is coming ever closer. So what do? You panic. What's the best thing to do? You panic, you have a meeting, and you define new policy, and then you lock it up, and you go through this infinite policy that you've seen 30 years of this. All of us know that no leadership team should stay in place for too long. All of us know that renewal is a good thing. All of us know that time comes for old ideas to be chucked out and new ideas to be included. But this is why we're in the mess that we're in. The ANC is addicted to state-run everything, says the former British ambassador to South Africa, so Lord Robin Redgrave. I remember standing in Davos with Pravin Gordhan, 2017, and I said to him, Minister, please just give SAA away. Give it away! He said, over my dead body. It's not what I believe. I said, it doesn't matter what you believe. Economics will rule the day. So on the day they announced the Jakarta Consortium deal, which was probably going to fail, but the day they announced the Jakarta Consortium deal, I sent him a WhatsApp saying, do you remember when I was just over my dead body? Are you okay? And that's a 19th century English word. A-R-S-L-E. Oh, sorry. My pronunciation sometimes goes. Arsel, to go backwards on a task rather than to make progress. It's this 2 steps forward, 3 steps back phenomenon that we're so guilty of in our public policy space. It's a big problem. Adrian Gore discovered you can throw anything at the right team, the right leadership, and they will find a solution to the problem. Discovery which has been to the wall twice in its 30-year history, putting the smartest people in a room and saying, let's fix the problem that we face. Usually it comes from regulators trying to shut them down. But they find a way through by getting the right people in the right place at the right time, making difficult decisions. We've got a national development plan, I know that we do. This is on my vaccination certificate. It's there, it's MVP. Successful countries, Rwanda came from genocide to leading African economy in 30 years. The same period in South Africa has gone south. Other countries have overtaken us in terms of performance and success. There's no coincidence that Beijing went from that to that in 50 years and Dubai from that to that in 50 years. It happened by accident. It didn't happen because it was suddenly a good idea to build a city in the middle of the desert. It happened because policymakers took a decision to do it. And then they employed people to do it, and they got people to act and do it. If they didn't do their jobs, they got fired. It took action, deliberate action, to make a difference. People often say, what happens in the next 5 years? What happens if the ANC will lose? What happens if the race? What happens if the interest rates? I don't know the answer to your question. Joseph Stiglitz in Davos this year, he was asked what happens in the next 5 years. He said, if I told you 5 years ago what was about to happen, that we were about to go to COVID, that we were going to recession, that interest rates and inflation would hit the levels that they'd last been in the 1970s, you would have locked me up. You would have locked me up. So I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen. I don't know. And we don't know. So how do you arm yourself a bit more securely? Well, you take advice from Sequoia County. Other than a dodgy cryptocurrency investment, he said he didn't pretty good. My favorite one is what paying with discipline or paying with regret. Right now, you're making difficult choices for your business so that you can last the next 5 years no matter what happens. Or do you in 5 years' time say, geez, I wish we had? The 3 widows of regret, could have, would have, and should have. Be proactive now. Make difficult decisions now. Manage your capital. So no matter what happens, no matter who's in charge, by the time they're out, you're still standing. My friend Pablo Fatides was in Germany the other day. He runs a business accelerator. And he was expecting really gloomy people in KZN. Entrepreneurs. Expecting them to be really unhappy, really miserable. And he went in and he got a job, having the best time of their lives. He says, what's wrong with you people? You remember the riots, right? Yeah. Remember the floods, right? You've been to the edge of the beaches and you've seen what's in the water, right? Yep. So why are you all so happy? And they get the same answer as my 90-year-old dad did. When I asked him, I said, so what's good about being retired at 90 in a place like Whitfield in the Eastern Cape? He said, look around you. How many other men do you see? I said, not many. He said, exactly. No competition. The same answer for these guys at KZN. Their competitors have fallen by the wayside. They've capitulated. They've given up. They've been unable to navigate the complexity of doing work and living in South Africa. Those that do will rise. They will become bigger and more dominant as time goes on. And I think you all know that instinctively. Opportunities will arise in tough times, and you're being opportunistic is so important. My kids' music room at school is a little sign and it says, dear pessimists, optimists, and realists, while you were arguing about the level of the glass, I drank it. Regards, the opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much indeed. If you would like to connect, so close. If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, please you know how to do that. You take a picture of the screenshot over there. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to know what's happening in the corporate South African economy. You can tell me your stories. I'd love to hear them. I'm really grateful to hear them. Thank you very much.
Bruce, thank you. Before you make your way off stage, 2 things to the best of your ability with an attitude of growth and striving towards excellence, everything else will take care of itself. With that in mind, what do you think?
I think that's right.
Few quick questions. The first one is a fun one. Somebody asked, can Bruce tell us if his highlights are still outside? Okay, next one. What's your view on the future of cryptocurrency and coins?
I cannot wait for them all to die.
Brutal honesty right here.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Just because it makes no sense to me doesn't mean it's not brilliant, doesn't mean it's not the world's best idea ever. But it's a cop-out.
Next question. What's your view on why listed companies are being bought out? Example, SPAR, Steinhoff, Oceana, the sugar company, and what is driving this behavior?
Are being caught out?
Yeah.
Because finally we're getting a rule of law in place again. I mean, we've seen lots of con artists who run their businesses under very difficult circumstances. They start fibbing, they start lying, they get away with it for a period of time, and then they start, their success of lying actually outstrips their success of running their businesses, and they finally one day do get caught up. I know the story of Steinhoff, Marcus Schuster is going to stand trial in Germany next year for the biggest fraud in South African history, the destruction of a company that was never as big as we thought it was, but he created a fiction. And Tata created a fiction. Spar, unfortunately, is built with fingers. I said that we, and was a very good financial mail article, and some of them comment directly on that, but they seem to be caught not telling the entire truth to their retailers. And unfortunately, in an environment like South Africa, the disease of being able to lie and get away with it is endemic, not only in the political sphere, but certainly in many parts of the private sector. We have our checks and balances. Those checks and balances, unfortunately, are a bit slow, are very reactive, not proactive. And so we are going to see these corporate scandals erupt, and it's good that they do erupt, because when we catch them, that's going to happen.
Yep. So you've answered the follow-up question, which is based on what's gone wrong with these entities. Okay, so based on what's gone wrong with these entities, how do we trust companies listed on the JSE?
How do you trust companies on the JSE? Well, what do you trust? Not every company listed on the JSE is full of convicts and criminals and bad guys. In fact, I think we can say quite safely that it's in the tiny minority of companies. And you've got to diversify. You've got to keep your wits about you.